more testosterone than women do. And one way to produce more is to disconnect from anything that produces estrogen, like his girlfriend. You see, it's a biological need for them to go into caveman mode. He needs to go produce more testosterone so he can be the man that you need him to be. Do you know why?
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Bert 91. We are talking to you today about whether men need space from women. Do men need space from women? And that can include female friends, or that it could include girlfriends or wives. And why do we, if we do need space, why do we need space? What does it help men do? And so I've got some fabulous guests with me today. I'm joined by Onu, Sean, and Corey today to discuss this topic. Do men need space from the ladies? You know what I'm saying? Because some of you... No, jokes. Fellas, how are we doing today?
Doing fine. How about you?
I am good, sir. I am good. I'm good. It's good to have the boys around. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't say male because we're not allowed to say that word apparently. We've been banned. So, but it's good to have the guys around to discuss an important topic. So, first of all, you know, as distinguished gentlemen and as men of this round table here, technically it's a square today, but as men of the round table today, I want to ask a question and see if you agree. Do men need space from women? Don't ask me to qualify it. Just simply put, do men need space from women? If you agree, I need you to raise your glass up to the screen and say cheers. Okay? There we go. That's one. That's two. That's three. And that's four. Fantastic, gentlemen. We can now get the show underway as distinguished gentlemen. So, gentlemen, as the video said, you know, the young lady was talking about how men need caveman time. And so I want to ask you again, but this time I want to answer from you rather than your glasses. Do men need space from women? And if they do, why, for you, do us as men need space from women? I'm going to go to you, Oni, first, as our honorable member again. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you. I I think men need space in order to think. I think some or think and just process what they want to do. Sometimes, you need time for self-reflection to figure exactly what you want to do and not want to do. Not just in relationships, but just in life in general. It's not. We watched the video. I want to say nagging, but at the same time, sometimes you just have to put your thoughts in order versus for yourself, so you know exactly what you want to do. Most men are looked to as leaders for direction. Even in the military, the greatest generals, generals, lieutenants, they typically take time to plot their next move. So again, you just sometimes need things to think. How much time you spend away is a different story.
Appreciate it, sir. Yeah, I hear that. Generals even need space too, man. You know, get their thoughts in alignment, as you said. Okay. Sean, what's your thoughts? Do men need space from women? And if they do, why do they need space?
Yeah, I think in any relationship, right? You are an independent person prior to that, and had your own, things going on. And I think it's healthy in a relationship just to, for men to be able to do some of those things, not all, obviously, but some of those things that reminded them of who they are. Some people play sports, so doing that with your, with your friends is a way to just get away, get some space, allow your partner to miss you and for you to miss her. So I think it's healthy as long as the time spent obviously is healthy. Sometimes we need to, be able to vent. The barbershop is always that fun, good space where you can kind of chop it up for those that go to the barbershop. I think those are, you have some great conversations and, kind of chop it up and share stories. So yeah, I absolutely think that it is a good thing.
Love that. Love that. You're right. And the barbershop is one of those key places as well for us as well to, you know, have some male time to chop it up, talk male things, talk male things, because you see you can't say the word male no more, so we can say males amongst males. Do you know what I mean? Corey, what's your thoughts? Do men need space for women or not? And if so, why?
Absolutely. Too much of a good thing can be bad for you. So I'll say that. Being around your woman is, of course, a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But that time away is so necessary just for processing, mental, relax, just to be able to relax your mind and be able to process the daily activities you have ahead of you outside of the relationship. So a lot of times, it can be seen as we wanted space from our women as them being a problem or as being around them. We're not really wanting to do that. That's not the case. We just need time to process whatever we have to go through the day, throughout next week, throughout next month. So we need that time. So yes, very important.
Yeah, love that. And you've kind of segued nicely into it as well, because I just said in general space from women, right? But I want to specifically talk about your woman. Do men need that space from your particular woman? Like if you're dating or in a marriage, do men need that space, and why do they need that space from their spouses? Because you kind of segued there nicely. So I wanna ask, do you need that space from your partner at times? And if you do, why do you need that space? What does it do for you having that space from your partner? You know what I mean? I'm gonna go back away we came though. Corey, what's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, you do need space from your partner. Again, like I said, too much of a good thing can be bad for you, but at the same time, being around your woman 100% of the time or 80% of the time, you still need that little space away. Again, not necessarily wrong with her, the relationship, but say, for instance, there is something wrong. Say, for instance, there was an argument or disagreement that took place. You may need time alone to process, to see, okay, maybe if you were in the wrong, or maybe you can take time to just, without the back and forth, be able to take time to process what she's saying and see that she's actually right. So it can work in your favor. There's benefits to that space. So as much as it's important to be together, it's also important to be apart. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, the key part there, as you said, like it's not meant to be an offense to the other party. It is just a replenishing of oneself, getting ourselves into that space where we can kind of just recollect ourselves, man. Do you know what I mean? And just gather ourselves. I'm with you on that, bro. I'm with you on that. Sean, do we need space from our partners, our actual partners now? Not just women, but do you need space from our partner? Do we need space from our women? Your particular woman, do you need space? And what does it do for you?
Yeah, I think just kind of similar to what I was saying, it's like in that regard, it allows you can vent and talk through any particular issues with other people. It allows you that space to not always be in the thick of things, because especially if you're having a disagreement, and it's something that you can't reach a resolution, sometimes it's good to have that space to be able to talk about it with a trusted person. Obviously not everybody, but somebody, perhaps another married person, a counselor, a pastor, or what have you. And that space gives you time to be able to have that conversation and also get out of the situation itself, similar to what Corey was saying. So I do think it's important. I think it's healthy in relationships to get that space, because a lot of times when you're up under each other all the time, you can kind of nitpick each other, because it's like the little things they do just can get on your nerves, because you're just doing the 24/7, and you need that little space just to really appreciate the person and kind of sometimes take a step back and not be in each other's faces so much. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hearing that, brother. I'm hearing that. So it's helping us, not to be in each other's faces too much. You know what I mean? Because that can cause even more fights when you have two people, when you're in each other's space all the time. Basically, you're stepping on each other's toes too much sometimes. Okay, I'm hearing that. Onu, do men need space from their partners, and if so, why?
I think men need space from their partners. I'm agreeing with everyone on the panel. It's just, sometimes you just need time to reflect. Just for as an analogy, like with relationships, you're doing something, you're doing a good deed for someone else, whereas when you take time for yourself, doing something for yourself. So like when a relationship, think about going on a date, you're trying to impress somebody, make someone have a good time. Whereas let's assume you're going by yourself, you're going to a coffee shop or going to pick up a meal. You're doing that to replenish. You're hungry, that's you need to eat, you can do something to replenish yourself. Even though both might require food, you're there to achieve two different purposes. Same thing here. Sometimes it's great to spend time with someone that you care about, but at the same time, every once in a while, sometimes you need to do what's best for yourself. Sometimes you have to make yourself a sandwich. Sometimes you just have to give yourself a minute to think, read a book, watch a TV show, just do things for yourself. You just can't always do something for everybody else.
Love that. Thank you, Anu. Love that. All right, let me take it a little bit deeper now. I want to open it nicely and light. Okay. All right. Let me throw a little bit of a bomb down there. All right. Cool. Is there a right time that your partner should come and talk to you about certain issues? Y'all knew I was going somewhere. I want to ask that question. Is there a right time, okay, for certain types of conversations with you as a male? Right? Your partner, your wife, your woman, your girlfriend, whatever you want to call it. Is there a right time for certain types of conversations, i.e. deep, emotional, requiring processing, thinking, thoughts? Is there a right time to hit you with that conversation? Or is any time good to have that kind of conversation with you? You know what I mean? All right. Onu, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I think there's a right time. I mean, I'm kind of hard to figure out when that is. I mean, the context definitely is needed. I feel whenever you're both alone, able to think critically and figure out and actually have a conversation about something is the best time. It's you can't say it's okay. Maybe it has to be between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. It has to be at night, etc. I think when both people are a clear mind, clear thoughts, they able to work through it. The key thing is like if it's really detrimental information, when is the best time to receive it? I mean, you don't want to receive life or death information at 1 a.m. if you're halfway to go to sleep. You probably would rather be that when you're of acute mind, awake with clear thoughts. So I think that's the key thing. I think when it comes to relationships, sometimes we present information at times where it not might be optimal. I've experienced in relationships people sharing informations like when I'm half asleep or at not opportune time, so it's unable to process, figure things out. You're definitely have to repeat over again. So
Okay. Let me ask the second question before you go. When is not a good time to talk to you about an issue then? So let's say, I'm going to give you context. Your girlfriend is coming to you. She wants to talk about the relationship. Okay? The relationship, maybe it's not going the way that she particularly wants. There's an issue, maybe I should say specifically. All right? When is not the right time to talk to you then? Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
let's say I'm acutely stressed. Let's say I just came home from work. I think that would be not the best time. Or if we're in an argument and you want to switch it to, let's say the relationship's not working, one things and things, I think that might not be the optimum time. I think a better time will probably be in the morning when we have a fresh mind, or like, you know what, hey, if we want to have a different conversation, let's talk. Let's set up a time later where we can talk about this. It's something important. I have to talk to you versus being sprung up on you. I know from personal experiences, sometimes those things get sprung up to me at opportune times, especially in evenings, especially when I'm stressed out by other things. Now I have to deal with something that I was prepared for, which is going to require a lot of energy. And I kind of don't like to be put in those situations.
Okay, I'm hearing you on that. So probably the morning for you. But like I said, if you're having like a hard day at work, that ain't the time to have that conversation. We'll come back to that. Okay, Sean, is there a right time to have a conversation? Is there a right time for your partner to have a conversation with you as a man? Is there a right time for them to discuss certain issues with you? Context being, i.e., wife, girlfriend, bringing up a conversation that's going to be drawing emotional strength from you, or requiring that emotional response from you.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a time when I'm prepared to have the conversation, right? I think sometimes, people just drop bombs on you and you're not ready to have the conversation. So, and then when when you're discussing it, it's more of a reaction versus a conversation that will hopefully address the issue. So I think it doesn't always happen this way, but it's good to prep the person if you want to talk about something serious, right? So letting the person know, hey, there's some things I want to talk to you about. When do you have time? And I just want to discuss our relationship and where we stand. When's a good time? Or when can we agree on a time to talk? I think that's better than just you hitting me with the, listen, I'm stressed, I'm tired, blah blah blah, and I need to see some changes, and then it's just like boom, and then the person is blindsided. So I think that that can be more effective. But the other part of it, and I'll end here, is like whatever you two have agreed, because I think in any couple you have to set some standards on how you want to communicate, especially in conflict, right? So if you guys have an agreement like, hey, listen, my time is morning, because I work this shift, or this is my particular job, or whatever it is that you two agree on, then that works for you as a couple. You should have some, ideas of when is it best and how do you want to be communicated with. For me, that'd be my preference, because I find like sometimes what happens is a woman may already have built the case or have everything that is bothering her. So she's locked in. She knows how she's feeling. And then she hits it with you. You're trying to play catch up and then also kind of defensive. So it's an imbalance. And then sometimes that defensiveness can turn what should be a conversation into an argument. So better to prepare the person for what's to come and then give them a time to process and come back to you and talk about it.
Love that, man. You know what? You answered my question I was going to ask you anyway, which was why why do that? But you answered it perfectly there, saying that a perfectly good conversation now can turn into an argument simply because there's already a case that's been built, and also because I've been blindsided. I'm now responding in a particular way to you and not really responding in the right particular way. So I'm hearing what you're saying. Okay, that's cool. I like that. Corey, what's your thoughts on this question? Is there a right time to have this conversation with you as a man?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say before I go into my spiel about what it is that I do, I'm fully aware that in relationships there should be absolute freedoms that take place, and being able to come and talk to your partner and whatnot. I'm all for that. However, I have it structured a certain way. There are certain parts of relationships that does require structure. And this is one of the ones that requires structure, in my opinion. So it may be not a popular opinion, but in a Corey relationship, you want to be in a relationship with me, this is a must for me. And what that is that we have a predetermined day each week that we come together, we have a glass of wine, and we discuss the week before's problems, and we're going to talk about our week ahead. Now, what that means is that if we decide to pick a Sunday, 5:00, we're going to both agree on that day. We're going to both agree at that time. Unless it is an emergency, we hold true to that time and to that day. Nothing comes in between that. So when we have that conversation, it's fine. We understand what we're going to be signing up for that day. So if it's Sunday and she's upset about something that took place on Tuesday, by the time Sunday comes, she has an opportunity. I have an opportunity to see if it's worth mentioning on Sunday, because sometimes we react in momentary instances. Like it's just something about the timing of something that came up that we want to be able to talk about. But sometimes when we self-reflect, we realize that it's not as important as we may have thought it was to be. So if something happens on Tuesday, our day is Sunday. Sunday comes, you realize, hey, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. I don't want to talk about it. It's not good. Fine. We can move on with our day. However, if it's Tuesday and it's Sunday and you want to talk about it, I'm already mentally prepared for that conversation. You're already mentally prepared for my conversation. Not to say you're going to want to agree with anything that I say or I agree with what you want to say. But on this day, we both have already agreed to listen to each other, listen to understand instead of listening to respond. And I think that having something structured like that in a relationship is something that's beneficial to a relationship, because you have your day, you have your time, and it's already agreed upon. So that's just me.
Wow, I like that structure there. Interesting enough, I was thinking in my head, I was like, you know what, a few years ago I would have told you that's nonsense. I couldn't do that. Because the struggle, and this is why I was, I like this conversation, because I think it, once you get a hold of your feelings and your emotions, right, and realize that not everything needs an immediate response, and then that's a great structure to go by. Now, not everyone's going to be a week. Some might have 3 days. Some might have a bit longer. Whatever you guys agree upon, I think it's really brilliant. And the reason why I'm saying that is that it gives everybody the opportunity to think it through, right? Because I think a lot of our arguments come because there's no thinking done and a lot of reacting being done. And that's not just on women's part, that's on men's part too, right? When I think about some of the situations that I've had in relationships where it's turned into a massive argument, it's because what happens is you're heated, you've got an emotional feeling towards something that's been done, okay, and no thought process has been done. It's just, this is how I feel. Come into the conversation. I want to talk. Boom, 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 boom. Bombs just being let off for left, right, and center. And actually, then often what also happens is last week's bombs also coming in. Doom, 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 doom. And do you know what? From last year too, because I didn't say all I need to say from last year. And it just becomes an onslaught in the argument of previous arguments or grievances that come in all at once. And oftentimes it's because there hasn't been that time to think it through. It's just an emotional response. And that's both men and that's women. So again, I'm not saying that everyone has to do 1 week. No, that might not be your thing. It may be 3 days, maybe 2 days, whatever you can do. If your thing is daily too, that's what works for you, do it. But I love the fact that you're saying it's about being intentional to let everybody know, hey, you ain't about to get sideswiped with a huge bomb conversation that mashes up your whole day now, and you're going to work pissed, or you come back from work pissed, whichever one it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm definitely hearing that. And it just gives us time to kind of think about things before we kind of jump into an argument there as well. Okay, so let me ask a question then for you guys. What becomes your meal time? What is your meal time? How is your downtime? How do you spend your time where you go and regather yourself? What do you do? What's your activities that you engage in? You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, mine is, I like a good cinema. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like to go and watch a movie, and those 2 hours are serene and beautiful. The popcorn that I'm eating at that moment in time, they're listening to the dun 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 dun. I'm enjoying it. Listen, it's a special moment of hearing adverts that I'm never gonna buy a phone for or anything like for. But I love those 2 hours I'm about to spend in the cinema. It's a good downtime, recuperating of thoughts. I can think clearly in that space and come back out to the world. But for you as men individually, what is your downtime? What is your time that you say that you need space for? What do you go to do in those moments for you specifically? Onu, what about you? Oh, you're muted again, bro.
Either I like to go take a nap, go to sleep. I might put on music, or I might just binge watch YouTube for like an hour or two. Like I can kind of just try to stay close to myself. I try to stay away from like cell phone, even responding to emails in that regards.
Appreciate that. So your time is more of a resting, go to sleep, play some music on, rest up, recuperate, no phone, nothing. I like it. I hear it. Sean, what about yourself? What's your downtime and what's your meal time that you spend?
So lately, there's a couple of things. So sometimes I like to take drives. I like to do that. I like the water. So especially in the spring and the summer, I love a nice drive or a nice walk by the water. That's cool and calming for me. Sometimes it's chopping it up with some of my closest friends. So we'll hang out. I'm a foodie, so I like to eat. So sometimes, me and some of my close friends will, when we can catch up, we'll, catch up and go grab a bite and then chop it up. So, those are a couple of the things that I like to do. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I love that, man. Yeah. Food is good for me too, man. And the drive sounds amazing. So I'm with you on that, brother. I'm with you on that. Long winding roads. All right, Corey, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. For me, yeah, I have a room that I go into, and it's set up, nice little stereo system set up in there. I turn to music. So I'm big on, I love to sing. I mean, it brings me a lot of joy. It allows me to be able to think about things I need to do, things I need to, that I'm going through currently. It really helps me out. So music is a big factor. However, if I'm upset, if I'm angry, I'm tense, then I'll go bowling. I go bowling, unleash all that anger, all that frustration out on the pins. So I take the ball rolling, boom, boom, boom. And then hearing the clash, it does something, subliminally to me, like I'm destroying those boundaries or those walls that are up that stop me to get through. So, yeah, that's how I do, when it comes to my release from the day.
Love that, man. I love that. I definitely hear you on the smashing of the pins, man. Because, yeah, brother, anything that gets it. Do you know what it is? Anything that requires some violence from myself is also good as well. Just a release of that stress, bro, physically is good. Punching bags, gym, whatever requires some healthy testosterone to release is good. I ain't gonna lie to you, brother. It's good to recover. All right, cool. I'm gonna play a second video, and I'm probably going to cause a bit of a war in the comments, but hang on to your hats. Okay, I'm going to put another video and see what your thoughts are and get us talking around that issue. This was a nice little light starter, get the people involved, you know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna be too pressed by this just yet. But let's play this clip here. Okay, so you're about to hear an accent very strong in a second. All right, here we go. Did you guys hear that? No? Mercy. My internet's trying to do me dirty. Apologies, guys. All right, cool. There we go. It's working now.
That when we communicate, we don't communicate effectively. Women don't communicate effectively. Men don't. I mean this in the nicest possible way, and I don't want to offend all women, but women don't listen. Women don't listen. They will ask, and I will ask you guys if you agree with this. When you're having a conversation with a woman and she asks you a question, do you sit and ponder to try and look for the answer? And then what a woman will do is then go, instead of waiting and being patient for your answer, she'll then ask you another question. And then she'll ask you another question, because that's how we pull things out of our brain. ASAP, men are focus-based. We ask them a question. We have to wait for the answer because they have to physically go and look. Because we're so feeling-based.
Okay, sorry about that. I thought I was playing it, but it wasn't playing in the background, so apologies about that. So what are your first initial thoughts to the video? What are your first initial thoughts that come up to you as soon as you heard this video? Oni, what was your first thoughts?
My girl, she should get a PhD in women understanding or something right there. I was like, hit the nail on the head. I think emotions play a part into it, but at the same time is sometimes it's they're waiting. It's the multiple questions. Even though a woman has one question, there's multiple questions they want to ask. And they want to make sure they can go from one question to another. Whereas guys, sometimes you have to process the question before moving on to the next. I I kind of agree with her because I've been in relationships where, like, you know what, you ask me a question, I don't know how I want to answer the question, or it's going to require me to answer it in a negative tone, and I want to make sure I'm covering my words before that happens. There's more questions being asked, and now it's like, okay, where do you begin? I think I think what Corey was saying about just having like a structured day in order to talk things out will definitely help, but sometimes that's not the case, especially in my experience. Most women initiate these conversations. Really, guys don't really ask women that much where things are going unless there's something bad happen, or it's never impact to somebody or someone, i.e., a child or someone in the relationship, the spouse or them. But for women, it's like constant being able to constantly have reassurance through their emotions. It gets to be kind of dragging. And if you have to ask 5 or 6 questions or to feel self insurance, then why can't it just be one question?
I love the point that you made about as well, the wanting to feel like to feel they wanted to feel the emotion to feel safe. I love that point as well. You know, that's an important aspect. That maybe that's where we're kind of missing each other. You know what I mean? And when we're talking, we're missing each other on that plane. Good point. I like that, bro. Sean, what's your thoughts to this, man? What was your first initial thoughts of the video?
I think it was interesting. I think there's definitely two ways that, you know, men and women receive information. I do think it just depends on one. It depends on the woman, but I know we're generalizing to make a point. But I definitely see that happen more when it's information that is not really something that the person, that a woman may not want to hear, or it's kind of, something that is not pleasing, right? There definitely could be moments where, it's like just listening to respond. We'll see that sometimes on YouTube, with hot topics. Like, we haven't really gone into anything that's super, controversial. This one is probably the most controversial of topics, especially as I'm seeing the chat kind of scroll up a little bit, so it's kind of like, as soon as it's said, it's kind of like, boom, I'm responding before truly listening or asking questions in terms of what's transpiring, right? That's my thought. If that's clear.
No, it does make sense. I mean, I definitely hear what you're saying about this as well. There are times where, it definitely could be put on both sides. But yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. There is an aspect where, I guess, as men, we're encountering aspects with women, where there is that pattern of a response before there is a listening to it. So there's almost an answer that's given before the response. So I want to understand what you're saying. Yeah. I hear what you're saying as well. Okay. Corey, what's your thoughts on this question?
Yeah. All right. So for me, when women, this is just my opinion, when women ask questions back to back like that, they're looking for how you're going to respond. So when we take our time to think about the answer, it may appears we're thinking of a lie. So when questions come back to back to back, one of those questions you're going to answer. Once you answer that third question, now you got to go back to the first question to make sure that first question lines up with that third question. But then after that, you got to answer that second question to make sure it aligns with the fourth question. So it's I don't think it's women playing games on purpose, but it seems that way from men, because all she wants to make sure we're doing is being forthcoming and honest, is from what I can get from it. But yes, does it happen? Absolutely. Absolutely. You mute, go. You mute.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I said when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, this might touch a few hearts. I think, and I think this goes back to what Onu kind of really spoke on, which is that the needing of the reassurance emotionally. And again, I'm sure there are many men that people have encountered that probably do the exact same thing as this video. So we're not saying that. What I would say is, and Felicia just put it right there. Thank you. This is all I wanted to. This is the truth I wanted, which is this. Yes, absolutely. Women are great investigators, but you've turned the conversation into an investigation and an interrogation. That's why the back-to-back questions happen, right? So that's exactly what I'm talking about. So this is a true answer. This answer by Felicia is absolute, the truest answer, which is what I wanted. Because initially when we ask, the first thing women do is, we're not like this. It's men who are like this. But she just proved the point by putting that point across by saying, we're the greatest CIA agents. Yeah, you're right. Because you make everything, not everything, but you make these kind of situations into an interrogation where you're waiting to catch somebody out. So sometimes what can happen is you get the back-to-back questioning when it really just should be like, yo, like, just answer the question. Let me answer it, and then we come back again. So again, it's one of those things where where I think where we miss each other, men and women, because like I said, we actually communicate in different ways. So this is not even trying to even say women are bad communicators. This is to say that we don't understand that way that you communicate. When you hit us up with the dot 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 dot, we don't understand that level of communication. That doesn't work for us. You know what I mean? So we, for instance, give an example. We've all had the long text before, haven't we? Right? The long text that you get from your partner that describes every single thing that has just gone wrong. And you're like, right, it's a lot to deal with. How do you tackle it? I need to take one at a time. But you've just got a whole paragraph, and sometimes we don't respond in that way. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's it's an interesting kind of thing. What was your thoughts to that, Sean?
Yeah, I think those long texts and just those, it's like the information dump. And what I've learned, it's like what you just pointed out. It's not right or wrong. It's just different. And I think women are very comfortable with their emotions and feelings, and so they're just in those instances, especially when it's heightened. A lot of times, you're just going to get hit with all the information that they're feeling, and it's not fully vetted, right? So I think and when we see that as men, it's overwhelming. So we're either going to do, depending on the personality type of the man, it's either we're going to disengage because we don't want to have any conflict. It's just too much to even try to process all the information we're getting. So it'll all just get dismissed. Or if the person is a conflict of, they run to the conflict, they're going to now you're going back and forth. So I think that when either party does that, it doesn't get anywhere, and I think it's just it's getting underneath it, and just asking the right questions, like, what's going on? How do you feel? Like, what bothered you? And just kind of deal with one problem at a time, because when those things happen, it's likely about the one thing, but the one thing triggered other things. So it's better to just deal with issues head on versus like what some people do is just leave them or never deal with them because they don't want to deal with it. And just like, okay, so what happened here? What bothered you here? And how can we either, one, figure out what I need to do different, or two, how we need to come to a better understanding of whatever happened. So I think couples need to have those conversations better. Similar to what Corey shared earlier, it's like you got to be able to have, whether it's a dedicated scheduled time or a time to flesh things out so they don't build. So by the time you're having a discussion, you're just getting things piled on top of piles on top of piles, which doesn't help anybody, because now either we're in a fight for our lives at this point.
Not a fight for our lives. Definitely hear you on that, Sean. Good points. Anu.
To piggyback what Felicia had to say, like, women are the CIA, they're probably the best investigators. Like, guys or men in general, they're very great detectives, which means they know how to like trouble manage worst outcomes of bad situations in like real time. And like, so I might be an example, I miss people, but like when I have to study for like my examinations, like I get like paragraph vignettes where I have to read some all this bunch of information in about 60, 90 seconds. I have to come up with the right answer. Most guys kind of figure out exactly over time how to best read problems and come up with the right answer. They're not bait and go on to the next situation. You start picking up clues and like, you know how to get better with time, get better situations. That's what tends to happen. Like you get all this information at once, but you have to triage, figure exactly what's important, what's not important, what's going to be more beneficial in this situation. That's pretty much it. Yes, the whole all the information is coming out to you, being able to answer, but what's more in particular in this situation? A woman can ask you 5 or 6 things, but exactly what missed it that made them mad? For example, did you miss an important date, like anniversary, a birthday? Were you late picking up someone from the airport? What was the thing that actually triggered the situation? Once you know exactly how to figure what else, you can resolve that and figure what else has to happen. There's some things you can push off and don't have to deal with right away, but it's typically what's initially the reason why they're upset. Trying to figure that out and trying to solve that, moving over to the next thing, that's the key thing, or how men used to do to survive in relationships, especially when that onslaught happens. Because again, it's never ever just one isolated incident. It's a combination of all the multiple incidents. The key thing is like, yes, if we can address these things in real time and not push things over, that's fine. But most people either intentionally forgetful, don't want to bring things up, try to gloss over the bad aspects of the relationship or what gets them in trouble and try to focus on the good. And when those things come back to the forefront, come back to attention, it's just harder to push away.
Yeah, I'm definitely hearing that. So you're saying in a sense, in a sense, like there's other issues that are really underneath sometimes the main issue.
Right.
Yeah.
For example, Married at First Sight, Michael and Jasmina. Michael unwilling to share about information about his roommates. Again, it's only going to lead to an argument down the road, like why he's not untrustworthy. Because again, there's certain aspects of the relationship he's unwilling to share. If he's just upfront and say, you know what, this is what it is, and a lot of person deal with it, there's going to be a better outcome, better conversation. Maybe you guys feel like it's a different conversation that you can't handle that particular moment. Sometimes you figure out what's the best way of doing so versus, you know what, I'm taking some information away from you and not dealing with those. It's a huge learning experience.
No, that's good points there as well. I love that. I think what's great as well about this is what you're describing here, especially on what you've spoken about, and I think also Sean touched on as well, is being able to kind of see the layers underneath the surface, right? And I think we mentioned this last week. That involves emotional intelligence. That involves a level of emotional intelligence, emotional experience, experiencing some of these situations personally, and actually, being able to take that into a memory bank to be able to address some of these issues, right? Because like you're saying, if you've experienced women before in a relationship aspect, you start to realize that sometimes the issue that you're talking about isn't the issue. Like the issue that's not the issue. The issue is something underneath it. And I think we experienced this the other day, Sean, myself and yourself. We experienced this live in effect when we're dealing with the opposite party, where the actual issue wasn't the surface issue that the person had brought up, but it was another issue underneath it. And so because we had dealt with women before, we both could understand, okay, but what is the real issue behind this? What's actually affecting you? We got from one to the next. We said, no, but what's the real issue? Let's drop it again. Okay, now let's drop it again. And what that is first of all, and like I said, it's experience, but it's also as well emotional intelligence. Being able to see that the emotion that you're displaying doesn't match what you're talking about right now, right? The way that you're feeling about the situation doesn't really necessarily match. And that's why you're able to ask that extra question. But also what it allows you to do also as a male, if you're emotionally intelligent. Again, this is why I'm saying that some of the women have experienced men who are docked and zero emotional intelligence. That's got nothing to do with me. That's got nothing to do with me. But, if you are emotionally intelligent as a male, you start to realize that there are layers to these issues. And then you start to ask questions to get you to that point. Because like I said, like with us as men, we want to be able to, get to that heart of that issue. You know what I mean? You know, so yeah, I think it's quite interesting as well. So I love the points that you're kind of making there. You know, who is this? Listen, I'm gonna say this once because I haven't got time. Ryan, I'm gonna say this once. If you continue, I'll block you. I just haven't got time because I don't like the incitement of the color and racism and white people this and black men this. Just chill. Thank you very much. Okay, so back onto the conversation. I haven't got time for the nonsense. Back onto the conversation. So, since obviously we've kind of fleshed out the fact that women do speak with a more I would say more, I don't mean like, I hate saying the more emotional roundabout way, but they speak with feelings, right? They incorporate feelings into how they talk. What ways can us as men do better to understand them and get a better understanding in terms of our communication with them? Because obviously it can't be one way. It can't be that we expect them just to talk more directly and then we don't compromise. So what is our compromise here in terms of being able to have a better communication with women to get a better understanding of them, if we now know that they more often than not speak with the feelings around what they're talking about? What is the best way for us as men to be able to communicate in that environment to get the best out of it? Yes or no?
We understand, for the most part, most questions are not going to be able to answer yes or no or just with one or a couple of words. We understand it's going to require a dialogue. We understand it's going to probably be an uncomfortable conversation. We just can't be willing just to let things go initially on the first go. Sometimes we need to be able to repeat difficult conversations on a second and third time and make sure we understand exactly not just what they're asking, but what brought them in that particular place. So it's through experience, but at the same time, for the most part, women don't ask yes or no questions. So we're just trying to answer things just don't go by. We're not effectively answering their questions. If you have to ask another question, then you really haven't answered the question in my book. So at the same time, it's like, what's causing them to ask the question they're asking, and can you resolve all those questions? So again, we keep saying communication, but I think the better phrase would be dialogue. You be able to have a dialogue and explain exactly what's going on.
I love those points, bro. Love that. Solid points. Love that. Sean, what's your response to this? How do we, as men, create better dialogue, as our brother said, with women in that regard?
So, two things. One, I just want to address kind of Aaron or Aaron. I'm not sure what the exact name is, but the differences between men and women and the way that we communicate and work in relationships is not a black, white, brown, yellow issue. It is a man-woman issue. I don't know if you've heard of the book that's ages old called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. That was written not by a person of color, right? So this is a topic that is highly debated, highly talked about, and there are definitely people of all colors who are looking to understand how we can better communicate. So let's not make this about men of color being intellectually challenged and that other men don't make these same complaints, because they do. And guess what? Other men struggle in relationships and are divorced and are challenged. So that's why these topics are here, right? So I don't understand where that's coming from, and we can have differences of opinion. I think that's what this platform is about, but let's not take it to a place that goes nowhere but to discontent. What I would say, back to the original point, is that the questions you could ask is more so, how do you feel? Because if we know that instinctually women may lead with their feelings, we want to get to the root cause of what is the feeling that they have. So I think instead of trying to dismiss the feelings, we need to address the feelings. And sometimes for us, and I know I'm speaking especially for myself, it's something I had to learn to be better at, because sometimes I want to just get to what it is. What is it? Tell me, what is it? And sometimes you have to take a step back instead of going so much at what it is, and address how a woman is feeling. And that will get you to what the exact issue is, and then you two can work together on what the resolution may be. So that's what I think.
Yeah, good points there, bro, as well. And you're right. It's about us trying to. Also, we want a resolution in this dialogue. So you're absolutely right. Learning the way that they come to the table to discuss is so important, so that we can then begin to actually bring a viable solution, not only for ourselves but for them as well, right? And so that dialogue, how it looks, is depending on how we communicate with one another, how we experience them, and how we know them to be when they are discussing. The Bible says, "Dwell with women according to knowledge." So having that understanding of how they move, or how they communicate, or how they dialogue is quintessential, right? So that you can have good relations with them. So yeah, you're absolutely right in that regard. I love the points you've made, both you and Onu as well here. David, in regards, welcome to the conversation. We are talking about how do men understand how to dialogue with women. It's a really crappy way I phrased it, but in a sense, what we're talking about is, if men already know how women are going to come to the table, what is our responsibility, in terms of dialoguing with women? What is our responsibility here? How should we be dialoguing with women? That's what I want to say, in terms of, if that's your partner, if that's your wife, how should we be dialoguing with them?
So I think it's an interesting conversation, because I think one of the major issues in relationships, and I would say in marriage as well, is conflict resolution. Learning how to resolve conflicts in a way that is healthy, in a way that is productive and is effective to addressing the issue. I think it's a major problem, because personally for me, I think it's one of the problems that I did have, because I'm not a confrontational kind of person. When something happens, I just kind of, in my mind, I'm just like, okay, that's fine. That's how you see it. Let me just leave it there. I'm not going to, go back and forth and things like that. So, when I kind of got married, it was like, my wife might do something I don't like. I won't say it right there and there. But then if I do something she doesn't like, because she's that kind of a person who says it once, she doesn't like it, she'll say it straight up. Then that kind of made me feel like she's picking on me. It kind of made it feel like, and you almost start getting to this point where you feel like, nothing you do is good enough. Like, why do you have to always pick up on everything? And my mindset is like, if you pick up on everything, like, how do you actually have fun or good times? Because I'm like, just let something go. It's not that, so it's not a big issue. I mean, like, we had a discussion one day and I was like, like, I don't feel like I need to talk about everything, because if you okay, for example, if you say, oh, I don't think, I'm in line with God anymore, or I don't think I want to raise my kid in church or whatever, like big issue like that, like right there, I'll quickly nip it in the bud. Like, no. I think we're going, we're running mad here. It can't work for me. Let's address this mess now. But if it's just some kind of, oh, you left your cup here, I won't bring it up as an issue, but then she's that person who would bring it up, so it kind of became a thing where we had to learn how to resolve conflicts. And one thing I learned from actually going to the counselor was like, I need to learn to listen to the emotion behind what she's saying, and not necessarily what she's saying. Because we have some arguments sometimes, she's like, you never take me out. You never take me on a date. What, all these kind of things. When we were dating, you used to do this, you used to do that, but now, and I'm like, wait, I took you on a date last week. What do you mean by I never take you on a date? And then the therapist or the counselor is like, no, that's not what she's saying. She's saying she wants to feel loved. She's saying she wants you to make time out of your busy schedule and do this to make her feel. So it's not necessarily about this one date or the fact that you did it last week or whatever. It's more about the fact that, she wants to feel loved in that way. She wants to feel prioritized, and that was something that became more real, when my wife decided to stopped working and I was the only one working and all those kind of things became a big thing because she's like with my son or with our son the whole day. And then, she just wants like to go out and take me out. And, so I think listening to the emotion behind what is being said as opposed to what is being said is very important, because for us as men, we probably speak more analytically and more kind of precisely in that sense, but they speak oftentimes, from my experience, based on their emotions. And so you have to like read between the lines of what the emotion is. But then I also say, the way you say what you say, I think you just need to listen to women from an emotional point of view. Listen to how they feel, listen to their heart, listen to actually, and I think sometimes, our human and our manly nature to always want to fix things always makes us want to listen to say, okay, fine, it's all right, just quit the job and do this. Like she was working this job, it was a good job, she enjoyed it, she was making 6 figures, she was doing fine, but then they changed their boss and then everything changed and then she wasn't enjoying the job. So every day she would come back home and, oh, this happened, he told me this, whatever. What she wanted in some cases was just hold her, tell her that don't worry, you'll be fine, everything will be okay, it happens, that's how it is with, But sometimes I'm like, well, I think you should do this, based on the scientific whatever. She's like, no. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I've been hearing the scientific whatever since morning. Like, can you just say something different? I'm like, okay, fine. So what do you want now? Like, say no, just, comfort me and make me feel like, I'm like, okay, fine. All right. Yeah, you'll be fine. So just listening in that sense and learning to be, to listen to the emotional part, I think is what I'll say 2 things that I've learned in that sense.
Appreciate it, David. Thank you. Good points there as well. Definitely. Thanks, David. Like you said, obviously listening for the emotion is such a key skill. And I also want to put this across to the ladies as well. Please stop dating these guys that are not going to be paying attention to you. I honestly, because if they haven't got the emotional capacity to deal with you, why are we dating these people? Let's stop dating these type of guys who are not going to be emotional. Like what you're seeing on your screen right now is men that can deal with emotional intelligence. Stop dating these guys that are not emotionally intelligent. You will know. After you have a few conversations with them, you know. You know what I mean? Like, blaming all men in the world is not going to solve your issues. Stop dating these men. When you have a conversation with them, you will know. You ask them a question, you will see that they cannot emote and they can't bring an emotion to the conversation. They can't even give you the emotion behind the conversation. Stop dating these men. You're only killing yourself. I'm just telling the ladies because sometimes what will happen is they'll come and cry and say men are rubbish. And they're right, the men are rubbish. But it's the men you're picking. Abi, you are right and you are wrong at the same time. It's the guy you're picking. Yeah, he's not a good guy. Yeah. So when you're talking, you ladies, you know what feelings are. You know what emotions are, and you're talking to a guy, and he doesn't give you that. And I'm not saying he has to be soppy. You girls know, you don't want soppy. You don't want that kind of stuff. But as you've just heard us talk about it, we have men still have a different way of doing certain things, but we are also able to understand that there are different points of view, and that our counterpart will have a different way of communicating. This is what you've heard from us. There are other men like us. I know you only see 4 on your screen, but there are many men that are like this who can have this kind of intelligent conversation, who actually can reason in this particular manner. Date them type of guys. If you speak to them, date that type of man. Do you understand? Because the heartbreak is coming when we choose these men and allow feelings to run riot, and we choose these men that don't even know how to be emotionally available for you, can't emotionally be intellectual, can't speak about these things and compromise. They don't have any of those skills. They shouldn't be given a chance at all. Okay, guys? All right? We don't want to give them a chance at all. Okay, ladies? You have my consent to go out there and cancel those goons. Okay? All right? Thank you. All right, cool. you know. So I mean, yeah. So you know, this is, I like where the conversation's kind of gone now, because it's about improving and increasing, especially on both sides. You know, we're talking about the males, obviously trying to understand the women, and we spoke a little bit about women also too, how they can direct and talk to us as well in this instance. I'm gonna play another video. It's the third video, slightly off this track. Okay. But it's still on the emotional aspect conversation, so I'm gonna play it for you guys as well. So let's get this on the screen for you guys, and this will be our final one of the night. Okay, I want to get your thoughts on this. When I heard this, I laughed a little bit, because we've kind of been talking a little bit about it last few days. So let's put this on the screen. All right. Okay.
Comes to you and say, you're not soft enough, you're not emotional enough. That is justification for them to cheat on you. That's game. That's a guilt trip. That's manipulation. It's called gaslighting. If your girl ever comes to you and say, you're not soft enough, you're not emotional enough, that is justification for them to cheat on you. That's game. That's a guilt trip. That's manipulation. It's called gaslighting. If
I did laugh when I heard this video. I don't agree with everything you just said, but it's the first part I was really trying to focus on, but the rest of it got to the end and it kind of tailed off. I wanted to get your the kind of the initial response to the video. It really was more to focus on the first part. The last part is nonsense. But what was your kind of thoughts on this? Onu, talk to us.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, I guess I'm trying to see exactly what the point he's trying to get this from when he says soft. Is he easy? Does he mean like easy manipulable? Like, women don't like, if that's the case, women don't like easily manipulable men. I get that, but at the same time, you have to. I think you have to be. I think there's multiple things that run through my mind. You have to understand exactly who you as a person, who you as a man, and what you're willing to allow and not willing to allow. If a woman's going to walk over, if you give a woman an ounce or a step to walk over you, she's going to do that. If you let that person stay in your life, it's going to be detrimental. So if that's what he's trying to get to, the cheating, I get that. For the most part, if someone's going to show you character, show you traits that you don't want, you have to be able to say exactly what it is and be able to get out of the situation. If you're gonna, soft tells me like, okay, you're willing to accept anything that's being brought to you. You don't know how to deal with conflict. If that's the case, that's fine. You don't want to be. I don't want to be in a situation. I think most guys, especially again in relationships, they're more scared of showing or telling their partner no, or something, or doing things that they might not please acceptable, because they're more willing about the benefits they're going to lose versus just being true to themselves. And I think that's the key thing you have. It's a long stretch, but the same thing is like, if softness is letting someone walk over you, then yes, you can't let someone walk over you.
Hey, you're not good to hear initial thoughts, bro. Appreciate it. David, what was your initial thoughts to the video? Just your initial thoughts to the video. What was you thinking?
So it's an interesting video, because I think this is one of the things I've just noticed with YouTube over the past few months. The fact that, our generation now, we have just unlimited access to so much information every day, and sometimes there's no filter. Like, YouTube is not going to filter like the right information or the wrong information, so you can listen to almost anything, and it's just up to you to decide. Now, from the conversation or from the video, to me, looks kind of like a red pill kind of a person. This is just my own sort of assessment on the surface. I'm not going to say 100% that's the case, but I think it's wrong for you to just say that, a woman telling you that you're too rigid or too whatever is an excuse to cheat. I think it's possible, or let me just say two things can be true. it's possible that you're running kind of like a drill sergeant, kind of a mini military base in your house, and there's no one who wants to feel that way. Like a lot of women have grown up with fathers who, in some cases where they are there, they are strong and they are very, authoritative and demanding, and yeah, maybe that's what is needed in their house or whatever. But then when they get married to you, they don't want that. They want a partner. They want someone who will love them and appreciate them and see them, not necessarily as an equal, but as someone who you're building together with, not someone who you're directing and giving orders to. So if that's what you're doing in your house, then, and she's saying that she needs you to be more emotionally connected and a bit softer and considerate and attentive to her feelings, I don't think that's an excuse to cheat. I think you're just misunderstanding that and deflecting that off as the justification for you to remain this drill sergeant and whatever kind of person. Like people say a lot of, weird things on YouTube. I mean, I've seen a video where someone was saying, yeah, this is a benevolent what's that kind of government where the person is just like a Putin or whatever. I'm like, that's so wrong. Like, because you have money and all this kind of thing, so now you're gonna be this, I don't think people are looking for that, and if someone is with you for that, is with you and they're okay with all those kind of things, sometimes it's because they just want the benefits of what you can offer, but they're not happy in that kind of relationship. So I think it's just an excuse to say that kind of thing. And I think it's something that, yeah, dictatorship. I think men, we should be willing to listen to our women. If they say, okay, you know what, you're being too whatever and all these kind of things, then, you should be attentive to listen and say, okay, maybe I need to tone it down a bit and, be a bit more attentive and listen and considerate to my partner.
Love the breakdown, man. Love the breakdown, man. I appreciate that, bro. That was good. I'll address what you did. It was good little breakdown there, David. Sean, what's your thoughts initially to that video?
So I think this is just it's almost like the opposite of pink pill, where it's just like coming. It's not even red pill. Almost, it's just like next level. I just didn't make sense to me, right? Because anybody that's kind of like thinking it through, if a woman is saying you're not soft enough, how you make the equation, how you like go to she's cheating on you and then gaslighting, to me it's just like, all right, are you just trying to not listen, or are you just trying to like avoid what could be said? Now, I think the same way that we might say to a woman, oh, you're being too sensitive, right? It could come off the same way, because we're actually telling her to not be herself if that's what she's showing. So I think if that question were posed to me, I would want to know, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what is it that you would want me to be softer with? Like, we got to get some more explanations behind it in terms of what the woman is looking for. Now, if it's I'm too direct, or maybe my words are too harsh, then we could talk on that, because if that doesn't work for you, that doesn't work for you. So that's something that can be adjusted. I think sometimes we get so fixed in like, well, this is me and I'm a man, or, and I can't change from that. I mean, you can choose different words. You can choose better words if that's what's important to you, if you value the woman that is telling that to you. But of course you have to get under the surface, because sometimes it could be a smoke screen for something else. Or sometimes a woman may be looking for you to be something that you're not going to be, because the same relationship she has with her girlfriends, or the same kind of conversation and the way it flows, is going to be different than you have with your partner that's a man. So I think on the other side of that, a woman must leave room to understand men are men. Right. So, yeah, we can have some flexibilities and work on our communication if what I'm saying is hurting you or bothering you, but don't expect me to be your girlfriend and we're going to chop it up and have conversations in the same way. So I think, yeah, that can lead you down a path, because sometimes that could get you could, just like how Sal, you know, on Love is Blind, for anybody who watched that. You don't want to be that guy either. And although Mal chose him, we were still able to see like she still wasn't enamored with him, right? So you do have to balance the sensitivity and all the emotions and all the softness, because you don't want to fall into the category of now you and your woman are one and the same and you are handling things the exact same way, right? So that's what I think about that.
Love that, bro. Love that. And you know what? I love the fact that you guys have taken, you know, the video for what it is, and then kind of just interpreted it and reinterpreted it in its correct manner. Because I think, you know, you kind of did what we've been talking about doing, which is that we've got to listen for the real truth of this video, right? Which is that, first and foremost, when I watched it first, I was like, this guy's saying softness, girl cheating on him. There is some level of truth to it. There is some level of truth to it, right? We just saw it on Love is Blind. We saw on Love is Blind kind of when Mallory was moving mad. Now, obviously, old boy put the game on her at the end, but in the beginning when we were watching it was like being too soft in the situation does get you in trouble. But what we need to be very careful with, which you guys have also highlighted, is if your woman's asking you to be more emotive, it doesn't mean that you have to become a softie and become someone who has no boundaries. The word soft is actually the wrong word. Having no boundaries. Having no boundaries is the word we should be using, right? Because softness can be interpreted in a vast manner of ways, but having no boundaries is precisely that. Not being able to be assertive enough is important, right? But being assertive and having boundaries does not mean that you don't have emotions, right? That's the truth. So if you have got a woman that is sensible, I want to make it very clear, if you've got a woman that's sensible, who is able to communicate with you, then your response in those things where she's asking you for that more emotional availability or emotional communication is to find a way to communicate with her in the most appropriate manner, right? If she's saying she wants more emotion from you, read, as you guys just did, it is listening for what the actual truth of what that statement is. You know what I mean? And actually understanding where that's coming from. And oftentimes what it really means is you're not connecting with her on an emotional level. She's not getting that from you. You know what I mean? And again, that may be something you as a man should look into, in terms of maybe you're not comfortable with your emotions. You know, maybe you're thinking, like he was saying, if I show emotion, I'm going to get cheated on. Showing your emotions does not get you cheated on. That's not what gets you cheated on. That'd be what the lie be. You know what I mean? That's where the lie be lying. You know, that, oh, if I show emotions, that's when she's going to cheat on me. Listen, there's a healthy way to show your emotions. Okay, there's a healthy way to communicate your emotions, and you need to express it in that manner. Showing no emotions does not make you strong. I think, David, you mentioned this. It just makes you a dictator. You end up becoming a dictator in your household. You know, so yeah, it's a bit of a wild one. Yeah, he's a funny particular one. What's our last thoughts on this topic then? I'll get you guys' last thoughts on this topic, and bring it to a roundabout close. Only, what's your last thoughts around what we've spoken about today in terms of communication between men and women, and probably the different ways that we communicate? What's your thoughts on this?
I think we should come to understand that men and women communicate in different ways. I think one of the key things that we need to start bridging is like how to effectively communicate together versus just talking. Like, we want to be able to have healthy dialogues, be able to understand exactly when we have conflict, how to address a conflict. So we say conflict resolution. How do we address our problems, or just address when things are not going well, so our relationships can be successful and healthy? I think that's the main thing we need to figure out. We understand men communicate differently than women. Do we understand that and know how to deal with those things? I guess that's what we need time to do so. I think environments like this kind of allows us to see exactly, hey, where men are coming from, where women are coming from, and how do we come to a healthy agreement to bring those thoughts in order together.
Love that point, bro. Love that. Thank you. Sean, what's your takeaway from this?
So I think overall it's let's, listen to understand, right? And avoid listening to respond. for all of us. I think, you know, when we come to dealing with each other, give each other the benefit of the doubt, but you know, trust but verify, right? You know, sometimes we come with a lens of what we expect or what we perceive based on our former experiences, and then that colors, you know, the relationship, and sometimes can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think let's just give people the room to show us versus assuming. I think that's super important. I think, you know, being intentional. I love the point that Corey shared about finding a time to communicate effectively, right? And setting that up. Now, you know, for every couple, it could be something different, but I like just being intentional about communicating and establishing points that we can talk about whatever is going on in our relationship, because I think that's good, because we need tune-ups, we need check-ins often, and I love that, and that was a big takeaway for me for something to think about. And then lastly, I think, you know, be careful of where you're getting your advice from. You know, sometimes we're pulling from a well that's dry as hell. And I didn't mean to rhyme, but you know, we got to understand that the source that we're getting, who is the source? Is it a trusted source? Are they, you know, somebody that we trust and that gets information from a good place? Or do they practice what they preach? Because sometimes we take advice from bad counsel. So I think that's something that was a takeaway, and something that I think is very powerful in relationships.
Good breakdown there, Sean. Thank you very much. Good breakdowns. David, what's your final thoughts on this topic that we've spoken about today?
Yeah, I think we should all learn to communicate with empathy, with love, with understanding, and we should try to listen to one another. You know, I think us being considerate of the other person and how they feel and what they are saying, I think it goes a long way to show them as well that we love them and it's about the issue and not about the person. We are fighting together and not against each other. So, and with you know, taking our space, like is a topic for the day, I just like to say it's important for us to learn also that as much as we take our space, we should not let it linger for so long. We should try to come back together after taking our space, so that it doesn't become like a punishment for the other person, but just make it do what it's supposed to do, which is basically you get some time to reflect and then come back to the drawing board, because it's easy for the other person to feel isolated and feel like, you know, you're dejecting them while you're taking that time or space away from them. Um, you know, so I think it's important for us to do that. Um, I think that, you know, as we grow in our understanding and in our relationships, we will understand how to deal with each other, how to listen to each other, how to resolve conflicts with each other. And more than anything, all the things that we have shared, I think that we should take them to heart and try to practice them in our daily lives, not just in our romantic relationships, but with people that we deal with as well. Even as men, you know, when we have conflicts and whatever, or disagreements, we should be able to resolve them in a very reasonable and respectable way.
I love that. I love that. Boys, you've broken down some things really, really well. I think I love the fact that we've been able to talk about, you know, having conversations with, dialoguing with women, because I think it's an important topic to talk about, right? It's not your most explosive and get people in their feelings kind of topic, but it is one of those that's necessary, I think, especially for brothers who watch this as well. Like, look, you bumping gums, shouting, trying to break a person down is not what you want as healthy communication. Do you know what I'm saying? You being able to understand how they come to the table is also not a form of weakness. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want any man watching this thinking, hey, well, I've got to, you know, be more emotional to understand. Listen, bro, you are trying to make sure you have a healthy relationship. All right. If you want a healthy relationship, you have to have a heart that wants to understand. That's how you operate in a relationship. And the same vice versa goes for women too. You know, we want them to able to understand where we're coming from, that we don't also operate in that same fashion. We need bit by bit, break it down one by bit. Do you know what I mean? You know, so, you know, we want people to understand that there are two aspects to this, you know, from the men and from the women's side as well. So make sure as a man, if you're watching this specifically, understand what we're saying here. Good communication starts off first, I believe, from yourself. Make sure you're doing what you need to do, okay? You know, and as always, listen, you know, listen. Lead the charge. That's what I'm always saying. I'm always saying to men, lead the charge, you know. Don't look at her and expect her to change first. Lead the charge. If you want things to be different in the way you communicate, lead the charge. You know what I mean? Be the leader in that home. Be the leader in all those things as well. So, audience members, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you guys and ladies coming through once more for the men's panel. I promise you we'll have a more controversial topic very, very soon, so that you can get angry at us at another time. But for today, we wanted to make sure we kept it a little bit serene, okay? So y'all can go to bed nice and comfortable, okay? Hold on to your pillow tight. Next week, we're going to pull off those covers. So, you know what I'm saying? We'll get another one that's controversial for you guys. But no, all jokes aside, thank you so much. Good conversation, good chat as well, I saw as well. And we'll talk again next week on the men's panel. Much love and appreciation. We will see you again very, very soon. Don't do anything